In the fast-paced, confusing, and complicated world we live in, we can easily lose our balance. But there are proven techniques to heal, calm, and ignite our body and soul. Learn from a yoga and meditation instructor some of the keys to inner peace. Next on Living Smart. Hello, I'm Patricia GRAS. Welcome to Living Smart, the show designed to help you get the most out of life. An assistant professor at the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center and at the UT Medical School, Alejandro Chaoul teaches courses in spirituality and health in their Integrative Medicine program. His Ph.D. in Tibetan religions has led him to study under great Buddhist masters, including the Dalai Lama. His book, Chöd Practice in the Bon tradition, deals with these customs. His work on mind-body practices in integrative cancer care include Tibetan yoga and meditation. Today he'll share how he has helped many reach a new level of inner peace and health. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Patti.
Now, as we've spoken before, meditation seems to be very hard for us Westerners. I mean, we try hard, but I was wondering why you think it is so difficult for those of us to just sit down and meditate.
Well, I think first it's difficult because they think it's difficult.
It doesn't have to be.
I don't think it has to be.
Okay.
I think everyone can meditate. And I think it's a question of calming the racing mind, what we call sometimes the monkey mind.
Right.
And I think we've been trained in the West to do exactly the opposite, to race, race, race. So partly is untraining and calming.
Right. Now, you're a father, though, and you're a husband, and I'm sure that you get mad, even though you meditate all the time, you get mad, you lose your temper, don't you?
Oh, yes.
So what do you do? Does your wife tell you, no, go back and meditate?
I thought you were a meditator, I said. Yes, I mean, sometimes I lose my calmness, and it's a question of trying to get back and acknowledge that, oh yes, I lost my calmness, I'm sorry, and in a way feel that what I do in meditation, I can slowly bring it into my life, and when something doesn't go in the way I thought it would, well, just take a deep breath and try again.
Right, right. Well, we're human. Now, you contributed to a Tibetan book called, what is it, Body, Speech, and Mind. And you chose to do Tibetan yoga as opposed to Indian yoga or any other kind of yoga. What is unique about Tibetan yoga?
Tibetan yoga is it is quite unique. When I met, the book is by my teacher, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, who's been my teacher for 18 years now.
Wow.
And in his book, he talks about this aspect of Tibetan yoga amongst others. And this is a practice that I got kind of hooked in early 90s when I went to Nepal, and I was with my teacher and his teacher, Lopon Tenzin Namdak, in our monastery in Tritanobutse. And there I saw that they were doing this other kind of yoga that was different. And part of the differences is that there's a sense of you start with calming the mind. So you start with the mind, then you include the breath, and then you include movement. So instead of being fixed asanas, it's in movement. The other thing that caught my attention was that they based it in actual texts. And many times in Hatha Yoga, we always go back to Patanjali, the Yoga Sutras and so forth, but rarely yoga teachers have the text and are trained in the text. In Tibetan yoga, we're trained in the actual text. And so since I was there in the monastery, I got taught from these texts. At that time, I didn't know any Tibetan. And in a way, that was also kind of the seed for me to be more interested in actually study Tibetan and pursue my academic interest in Tibetan studies. And in fact, my dissertation have translated these texts, and my dissertation is the context of these texts originally, how they've been practiced in the monasteries and caves, and how we were able to bring them actually to the West, and now even into the medical center.
Now, what do the texts say? I mean, obviously you can't tell me about all the texts, but what's the gist of the text? Do they explain the positions or why you need to breathe a certain way?
So it's interesting. The gist of the text, it starts, as many of the Tibetan texts, it actually starts by saying that the most important thing is to be in what they call the natural state of mind. The natural state of mind of being open, relaxed, and aware. Now, awareness here doesn't mean kind of our usual awareness, which is more like agitation, but actually aware of not reacting to things that are happening, but open, hosting, and acting from there, which I like to call from home. So that's the main thing,
That's
which
the
in a
main
way,
message.
it's not so different to the Patanjali Yoga Sutras that would say, well, the most important thing is to calm the ripples of your mind. Now, because not only in the West, but even in the East, it's not so easy to just stay seated calmly for hours and being in that situation. So because we move, the Tibetan yogas incorporate movements as a way of trying to be in that state of mind. You're breathing, trying to incorporate the breath and trying to incorporate the movements, not only to maintain that state of mind, but also to clear away any obstacles that preclude you from being there. And when they talk about obstacles, and they use this word gek, they say geksel, clearing away the obstacles. And the obstacles could be thoughts, the obstacles could be illnesses, the obstacles could be tensions in the body, the obstacles could be emotions. And pain,
or
of
pain,
course, yes.
yeah. Interesting. Now, why do you think, though, that the Indian yoga, Hatha yoga, tends to be more popular in the West than Tibetan yoga?
I think, well, one of the reasons is it came earlier, it was brought, I mean, I guess
Sooner.
originally with Swami Vivekananda, and then it took on, first of all, it's much more well known. And the other thing with Tibetan yoga is that originally, actually, it was very secret. It's still, in many cases, it's secret. In fact, the first article that I remember that they did in the Yoga Journal about Tibetan yoga, they call it Into the Mystic.
Interesting. Now, you always talk about kale kale, step at a time. And I think that has to do with, for those of us who are basic meditation practitioners, very important. Tell me
Yes.
about kale kale.
I love this word, kale kale. You know, it means basically just slowly, slowly, or a pace at a time, or as one of my teachers would say, slow by slow. And in a way, I say it's my favorite mantra, although it's not technically a mantra, but it's a way of saying meditation, it's not a fixed pill, right? It's not a quick fix. It's something that you need to practice, and you shouldn't expect an effect right away, but rather take it in, do a step, do another step, sometimes a step back, step forward, if we would use back and forth.
Right.
And the idea is that whatever you do, you're doing for your own transformation, but it's a slow process. So be patient. It is kale kale.
Now, cancer patients that you work with at MD Anderson and other cancer patients, what do you think works best for them? Is it meditation or yoga? Or I guess you do a combination of the two. Do you notice any difference? And which one has more impact? In what way?
Yes, we actually discuss this in we have team meetings of our integrative medicine program. Every Thursday in the morning, we meet with our oncologist of integrative medicine. We have yoga instructors and Tai Chi instructor, and we have acupuncturist and massage therapist and music therapist and mind-body
complementary medicine,
so,
yeah.
Exactly. And we discuss patients. So some patients that actually are too active, sometimes it's better to start them with activity. So it's actually better probably to start them either with a Tai Chi program, with a yoga program, with a Nia or something in movement.
Dance,
and
yeah.
then once they get that out of their body or out of their mind as well, we can calm them down and we can bring them more into being able to do more meditation. So for the same person, if we're able to follow their process, sometimes we could start with that, with a movement, and then come more into a sitting meditation. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes people need to start with a calming, and then they still need some more energy aspect, and so
Yes.
we could bring the other part. So they're not either or, they're actually quite complementary.
It depends on the person.
It depends on the person, and sometimes we can individualize in that way. Sometimes we have them in groups and they would know. And luckily, most of all the group practices that we have and the classes that we have at our integrative medicine program are free. Free for the patient, free for the caregiver. Even if you're not a patient and you're just touched by cancer, as many of us are, you're able to come for free.
Let's talk about the research, because it's extraordinary. The research that you found with that you've done on integrative medicine and your work, and the impact that it's had on cancer patients.
Research, I think it's a fascinating area that in a way I fell into it almost, I tripped into it, if you would. You know, I was facilitating meditation practices at, that time was called the Place of Wellness at MD Anderson. And then I met a researcher, Dr. Lorenzo Cohen, who's now the director of the Integrative Medicine program. And he said, do you want to do a clinical research on what you're doing? And I said, sounds interesting, but I have no clue what you're talking about. So we started talking, and he said, design me a program. And so I went to my teachers, because I said, I'm going to ask my teachers, because if they are not into it, I'm not into it. So I went to my teachers, to Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche and to Lopon Tenzin Namdak, and I said, this is what I'm planning to do. And because I was already doing my dissertation on Tibetan yoga, I decided to do it on Tibetan yoga. And so I created a program, and both supported by my teachers and supported by the team at MD Anderson, and we started our first pilot study with lymphoma patients. And we did a small pilot study, and we found that in that case, one of the major outcomes was improvement in sleep. Sleep quality, sleep quantity, sleep latency, which means the moment they want to go to sleep until they fall asleep, and less sleep medicine. And what was interesting is, you say it's huge. At that time I said, and that's it? And Lorenzo said, this is huge.
It is huge.
Because
that's when you heal.
It's a lot of people can't sleep, and that's the time where you kind of, in a way, recharge your
cells
batteries.
Rejuvenate. Yeah, that's what I read, is that you heal more when you're sleeping than when you're awake. So sleep is extremely important for healing.
So it was extremely important, and we got to be published in Cancer Journal with it.
That's wonderful. Now, I know you say that it's not hard to meditate, but with the technology the way it is, and we're constantly bombarded, you know, sound bites are shorter, people don't have the attention span. Why is it so hard for us to just calm down? Is it because our environment is so hectic?
I think technology could be used both ways. So on one hand, we are bombarded with it. Here we ask everyone to turn their cell phones off, but usually when they're on, it's constantly on, and people seem to feel that they need to respond to their cell phone, no matter what. And so we are hooked again into that environment. So partly is, can we have a cell phone free moment?
Right.
Can we have a TV free moment?
Right.
Can we have even a talk free moment? You know, can we have a quiet moment?
You have to schedule it in a way, isn't it? Schedule calmness.
We have to schedule calmness. And funny that you say that. What I tell my patients is, you know, when you schedule your meetings during the day, you say, I'm meeting with so-and-so, meeting with so-and-so. I say, put one that says meeting with myself. Meet with yourself. And even if it's 5 minutes, 8 to 8:05, when you have it in your PDA, right, what happens when someone else calls you and says, oh, can you meet at 8? It says, conflict. So you need to protect your time in the same way that you protect your time for writing, you protect your time for meeting with a friend, you protect your time for eating.
Right.
You need to protect your time for meditating. Now, there's the meditation where it's taking that time off and meditating, and then there's the meditation in the rest of the day. That's also very important, because even if you meditate an hour a day, there's still 23 hours left. What are you going to do? So partly is allowing what you cultivate in meditation, bring it into everyday life. So my teacher, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, says what's important also is to take the meditation pills. So during the day, 3 or 5 times a day, take a moment, take your meditation pill.
Now, I understand that, for example, a very important part of meditation is breathing. So sometimes just deep breathing is a sort of meditation. Is that right?
Yes, totally. I would say most traditions have that do meditation. Breathing is a great starting point. And why? Because we're all breathing, right?
Right.
If I ask, are you breathing? You have to say yes. Are you conscious of breathing? It's a different story.
That's the thing, being conscious of breathing, listening to your breathing, right? And breathing deeply?
Right. So partly is bringing your mind with the breath into your body. which brings us to how we consider these practices. You know, we always talk about them as being mind-body practices, meaning that mind and body are in a unit, and breathing can actually be the link between mind and body. And so many times in the Tibetan tradition, we say mind, breath, and body, or mind or body, energy, and mind, which is the book by my teacher, Tibetan Yogas of Body, Energy, and Mind.
Interesting. Now, one of the things that make us very unhappy are our negative thoughts. And we are also bombarded by negative thoughts, but we tend as humans to be negative for some reason. I guess it has to do with survival instincts. But the negativity and switching from negativity to positive thoughts could change our lives tremendously. How can meditation help with that?
I think the moment that we start pausing and connecting internally, we can connect not just to the kind of the openness, but from that openness there's a sense of warmth. There's a sense of connecting to what's truly there. And so when you're able to do that and you can recognize that, things come in a different way. My teacher Lopan Tenzin Nandak would say, you're all enlightened. It's just that you haven't realized it. The moment that we take in and we recognize that we all have that jewel inside of us, things change. Not that we immediately enlightened, but the moment of that recognition, we can start being more positive. And so from there, kale, we start not only knowing it intellectually, but feeling it. Start feeling the warmth, and the warmth starts spreading internally and eventually externally to others. And that's the beauty of it.
Well, they say all the time, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, not human beings having a spiritual experience. I want to know about the bell, because I know that before you start every meditation, you hear the bell, and the bell somehow has, to me, it has sort of a soothing, calming impact, and I don't know why. If you could explain. First, let's listen to it a little bit. And
so when you really listen to the bell, it actually hasn't even stopped yet, right? Now it's stopping. So when you really truly listen to the bell or to any sound, you're really stopping for a moment to be present with it. Now, of course, different sounds, you can have more sounds that appeal to you as being more beautiful, sounds that appeal to you as not being beautiful.
right.
But sound can be very profound, both in terms of the sound and the vibration, but most importantly is how you relate to them. So usually people like the bell. It's something that they are attracted to.
Right.
And so sometimes we use it at the beginning, but also
And
we
at the
use it
end.
at the end, kind of as a, okay, now that you've been in this state of mind, slowly come out, right? And so in that way is a way of slowly. And when you hear it again, for example, as you're coming out of the meditation and you say, for example, now slowly start relaxing your body. And you feel that sense of the sound, you're still paying attention to it, you're still in that calmness as you slowly open the eyes and integrate with the external world.
Focus.
And you're trying to maintain that without losing your internal focus.
Exactly.
So bells can be very powerful. Also, this bell we use sometimes in different rituals. And rituals can actually be with a lot of sound. They're not necessarily peaceful per se. And yet, if you're trained, you can be in a meditative state during all these bells and,
Right.
and drums and so forth.
And benefit from them. Now, you know the Dalai Lama quite well. Often when he comes here, you are with him. What are some of the important inner peace lessons? You've listened to many of his speeches, and he's a very simple, his speeches are very simple. That's what I noticed, childlike in a way. Some of the most important lessons you've learned from him that you'd like to share?
I don't know if I know him that well in terms of person, but I mean, I've been with him many, many times. And actually, some of the important lessons were when I did him the first time to Argentina, where I'm from, in '92. And I remember that he, even though there was, I was expecting that the visit of the Dalai Lama, everyone would be relaxed, and everyone was crazy. You
Right,
know,
right,
there were all
right.
these
Because
things
the Dalai
going
Lama,
on.
yeah,
We had
sure.
the police, we had, you know, and
The military.
and yet, yes, and yet, you know, he would come out of the elevator and get,
be
you know,
calm and
so
smiling,
calm.
yeah.
And I just remember that every morning as he came down and he went into the car and just touching his hand, his mushy hand, it was like so beautiful. He kind of imparted peace in that way. Also, he has just, as you say, such a simplicity. Even though he is the Dalai Lama, which for the Tibetans is the maximum spiritual authority, for many Buddhists he is too. He's, you know, Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, he's an incredible, well-known figure in the world, and yet he's so simple. I remember recently he was giving Tibetan medicine Buddha initiation in the University of Minnesota. And as we were going in, he was sitting in the stage, but not in his throne, not on his throne. He was sitting, watching his throne. He was praying, and he was sitting on the floor with his shoes on his back, like just, and it was like amazing. You know, he was just sitting
one of
there,
you.
just
one of
just
you.
one of us, and just being there. And other times in other practices, he would be on the stage, but he would be quietly practicing before he would impart his teachings, and just seeing him there. It's so beautiful, so peaceful, and in a way, there is a childlike because he laughs spontaneously.
All the time, yeah,
And
I noticed
and that's
that.
what I actually like about the Tibetans in general. The Tibetans are always very joyful, and it's different to some other spiritual traditions where there seems to need to be a seriousness.
Yeah,
Here,
they're just joyful, yeah, and like
they're-
childlike.
They are very childlike.
One of the hardest things, and this is what we hear all the time, to be happy or to be calm or to be meditating, you have to live in the present moment. You have to be at the present moment. How does meditation help you be in the present moment?
Well, the present moment is crucial. First of all, you cannot be in any other place than in the present moment. You want to be in another place, you want to be in the past, you want to be in the future, but you can't. So partly is acknowledging that and just being there. Now, for example, breath. If I say, breath, let your breath invite you to be in this present moment. So just be here. Don't be thinking of the next question. Don't be thinking of something in the past. Don't be thinking of lunch. Just be in the present moment. And let this breath help you be here. And also let this breath help you be here. And the more we allow that, we're more in the present moment. We don't deny the past, but we don't attach to the past. We don't deny the future, but we don't hold on to the future. And so we are in the present moment, building our future.
Right, right, right.
So moment, moment, moment.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're fully there, it can be a very rich experience, both with yourself and with others.
Right.
I mean, how many times were with someone else and we're not with them, right?
Right, you're not
We're
present.
thinking about something else. We're thinking, I mean, let's say in my world, in the medical world, we go see a patient. How many times a doctor can be with a patient but be thinking of the past patient, of the future patient, of the chart, and not be with the
Focus
patient.
on the person, yeah.
And maybe even with the fight with his wife or with the husband or whatever it is, and not being present. So sometimes it's important to just be fully there. And for the medical profession and even others, I have a good friend, Jim Duffy, who says every patient's room now has a meditation device. Mm-hmm. And that's our hygienic gel, you know. And so when you kind of clean your hands, as the Tibetans would say, don't just clean your hands, clean your mind.
Right.
When you wash your
it's a
dishes,
reminder.
you wash your mind. So it's you want, and then you're fully present in that moment.
What do you think are the three most important things you'd like for people to take away from our conversation on inner peace, meditation?
Well, first, that I think meditation, everyone can do meditation. It's
doesn't
not
have
just
to be
for a
difficult.
select few.
Right.
Everyone can do it. Second, research is showing that inner calmness is hugely important for our health. So it's not a luxury. I actually think it's a must. Whether it's meditation or any kind of mind-body practice, it's important that you have some kind of mind-body practice. For example, the late David Severn-Schreiber in his book Anti-Cancer says the 4 parts of our health, the 4 pillars of our health are nutrition, exercise, mind, body, and social support. And I would add sleep. And these are crucial for our health. So mind, body is one of them.
How do you know you're living smart?
I'm not sure I am living as smart as I would like to be. But in a way, trying to follow those 4 or 5 pillars and actually trying to be true to what I believe every day.
Thank you so much, Alejandro Chaoul, for joining us. It's been great lessons. And to learn more about the keys to inner peace, go to our website. There you'll find a complete resource list. You can also email us or call us with your comments at 713-743-8513. And that's our show for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Remember to live smart. I'm Patricia Gras. Have a peaceful week. Thank you.
For a transcript of this program, send $6.95 to the address on your screen. Please include the name of the guest.